Hello. The Heart of Texas Foundation welcomes you to Deep in the Heart. Each week at this time, we focus on giving encouragement to everyone who is locked up somewhere in a Texas jail, prison, or penitentiary. Stay tuned.
People get ready, there's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to it diesels a humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord, yeah.
Hey, if you're locked up tonight, I invite you to settle down, put your stuff aside, and join me in a devotion just for the incarcerated. I'm Grove, and this comes to you from Deep in the Heart.
People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board them. There's room for all of the love and lost to you, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Rainbow Cabin, perched up high on the south edge of Deep or Shallow Creek, up on the high bank looking down at the slow-moving water, which is usually a rich brown, much like our roper boots out here in central Texas in the rice and cotton country. Welcome. We have all kinds of wildlife out here still surviving and doing well. And yes, we have 4 kinds of poisonous snakes here in Texas, and right here on the old farmstead out here where we live in countryside west of Houston. We've got 4 kinds of poisonous snakes in Texas: rattlers, cottonmouth moccasins, coral snakes, and copperheads. You know, this past summer, one beautiful late afternoon, I was out in the back pasture out here just outside the window here in Rainbow Cabin, and Cloudy Dawn, our barn cat, who is made of spring steel and raw hide and weighs about as much as a blacksmith's anvil, Cloudy Dawn was walking with me as he always does, just like a dog would, just kind of trots along somewhere around me, behind me, beside me. And as I walked along, I looked around, and suddenly I didn't see Cloudy, and I turned around to look out for him, or look where he was, and he was crouched down on the ground with his tail curled up around his haunches, and he was sitting back behind me. And I walked over to him, and I knelt down on the ground, actually both knees on the ground, and my left hand actually on the grass in the pasture there, and I started to pat him, and I said, "What did you stop? Why did you stop, pal?" I just stroked him, and as I was patting him, I looked to his right, and there, not 2 feet away, if that much, coiled quietly on himself, the 2 of us watched a large copperhead sitting there looking at us. I had not seen him at all until I knelt down. He was as long as the distance was between my hand on Cloudy and his head. Late evenings are great times for snakes to come up where the small frogs are among the flower beds and the grass in the pastures, because they look for their feeding items as well, you know, bugs and flying insects and so forth. And so we do expect to see or look out for snakes in the evenings. But this copperhead was just sitting there looking at me. And I guess Cloudy knew, as I did, that copperheads do not strike like a rattler does. They just bite. And if you leave them alone, they will not bother you. So we both watched the copperhead. I continued to pat Cloudy, and the copperhead relaxed and went on about his hunt for dinner. You know, folks get bit by copperheads out here in Texas when they don't see them and accidentally step on them. They are beautiful, beautiful snakes, and blend very well with the floor of the pasture or when you're in the woods hunting. The Bible says again and again, be alert. Be alert. We're to watch for hidden dangers. And yes, we're also to be alert for what God is doing in and around us. And, it was a blessing to see that copperhead. Not only was he beautiful to see, but seeing him meant that I was not going to step on him. Think about that with me for a minute. Yes, I saw the snake and I did not step on him. What a blessing to not have stepped on that snake, because I would have gotten bit. That's how most people, other than we he-men out here in Texas who like to pick snakes up. You know, women have snakes bites mostly on the ankles, and men have snake bites mostly on the hands and elbows. Isn't that funny? Because we want to get down and wrestle with them, I guess. But it was Cloudy Dawn, the barn cat, my friend, who pointed out the danger. The right friends can help us stay alert, and the right friends can be part of life's blessings. You know, it was young David, the volunteer, who changed world history after he killed Goliath with one throw of a rock. It was David, that same David, who wrote this powerful memo in his journal, as is recorded in 2 Samuel 22 in Peterson's The Message translation. Listen to this. David journaled this. He said, "God made my life complete when I placed all the pieces before him. When I cleaned up my act, he gave me a fresh start. Indeed, I've kept alert to God's ways. I haven't taken God for granted. Every day I review the ways he works. I try not to miss a trick. I feel put back together, and I'm watching my step. God rewrote the text of my life when I opened the book of my heart to his eyes." David said, "I'm being alert to not miss a trick. I'm keeping alert to seeing God's ways, and I haven't taken God for granted." I don't take God for granted that afternoon when I had that Copperhead afternoon with that blessing. Welcome to all of you who are listening in Texas, in the many Texas prisons, who hear our voice, and in North Carolina now, and in Pennsylvania, where stations in the Wilkins Radio Network are carrying our program. And now in what is perhaps the world's only radio station inside a penitentiary on KLSP-FM in the huge Louisiana State Penitentiary in Angola, Louisiana. Welcome to all of you dear Free World listeners also, who are making it possible for us to enter many prisons with this show by way of radio. And the men in Louisiana's death row can now hear the program. Want to send us into prisons in other states, my friends? It's not expensive and would give you an opportunity to be a blessing to others. Just email me at info@heartoftexasfoundation.org. And I want you to sit down here in Granny's rocker. I've got your hot coffee right here for you. Here, let me get that big mug, big brown mug for you here. Just sit down and make yourself at home. Oh, don't worry about those boots of yours. I see some mud on them, but we'll hose that off when you go back to your pickup outside. I'm talking to you, like most of the time, from where I live, in little Rainbow Cabin perched on Deeper Shallow Creek, where the big old sweet covered porch wraps all around the cabin, and do we love it out here. And it makes for great sitting. But today we're inside, and the fireplace is glowing and warm. Welcome to this place. It's a little chilly here in Texas. And Granny's rocker is right here, so just enjoy yourself. Just don't lean back too far. Yeah, I'm so glad you could stop by. Isn't that coffee good? I'm going to have a sip myself. As you know, friends, we always take time to touch on spiritual matters here each week, and we do seek to cozy up not only to the fire, but also to some of the sweet truths from the world's all-time bestseller, the Bible, and we welcome you no matter what your spiritual beliefs are, my friend. In fact, you aren't required to have any spiritual beliefs to come inside Rainbow Cabin and sit a spell with us. Our program today is sponsored by Ralph and Mary Clenard, dear friends of the Heart of Texas Foundation, members of our little church out here in the country, where only a 5-way stop marks our little town. No flashing light, no red light. We do have a good horse vet and a good dog vet out here. And we thank our sponsor, Mrs. M, for putting us on WSKY in Asheville, North Carolina, and WYYC in York, Pennsylvania, and the prisoners there. You can just pray for Ms. M and a special blessing on her. Our mailing address, as always, is P.O. Box 991, Fulshear, Fulshear, Texas 77441. P.O. Box 991, and the zip is 77441. News from the front porch. Right after the show, I'll be leaving for my monthly trip to Angola, Louisiana, to the Louisiana State Penitentiary, where I'll be going as host to about 10 other Texans who are going with me to see a side of America's largest maximum security prison that no visitors get to see, thanks to the hospitality of our friend Warden Burl Cain. We take Texans and sometimes folks from other states to see the Angola prison and the effects that its seminary has had. After 17 years of operation, their seminary has helped Warden Cain transform that place. Once known as America's bloodiest prison, now is without any question America's safest prison. Gangs have been eliminated there as gang leaders became pastors after going through the seminary, seeing the respect that the seminary graduates were beginning to have. They too wanted to find out what was going on when you study the words and works of Jesus Christ for 4 years. The prison has literally been transformed into a place where kindness is not weakness. And because of the effects of that seminary, we in Texas got interested, and with the help of our governor and senators and Southwestern Seminary here in Texas and many other people and churches, we've started our own seminary here in Texas, modeled after the Angola. And we're in Darrington Penitentiary, just south of Houston. We're in our third semester, and we've got 116 men, mostly lifers and men with extremely long sentences, and we do that on purpose so that they will stay in the system as long as they're going to stay anyway. Let them stay and help us transform the culture into one of safety and forgiveness from the inside out and the bottom up. That's why we go to Angola, to let people see what's happened there and how it is going to happen in Texas if we stay the course. Want to help us out? The Heart of Texas Foundation fully funds this seminary operation, and so far we've been able to meet our budget first year and second year. And we'd welcome your help in any way you want to give it, whether it's time or talents or your treasures. Learn more about us at heartoftexasfoundation.org. And now for our devotional thought tonight and today. If you are not on board with the Christian faith, I'm so glad you stopped by to hear this, because it's one of the things I did not get back when I was a Christian, the kind of Christian that knew about the God of the Bible, but I did not know there is more to Christianity than knowing a lot about the Bible. There is something else that happens, and I did 7 devotions on this very topic because it's so important to me that you know what I've learned about that invasion of the heart, that unexpected gift that a person can be given and will be given once once their heart is exactly in the position that the God of the Bible sees it needs to be. And that heart is a heart of humbleness and humility and brokenness, typically, is what it requires in order to fully humbleize a human heart, if I may use a word there that I don't know if even exists. But there's an invasion of the heart, a supernatural gift. And when that event takes place, the person becomes absolutely convinced that God is real. For the first time, they know something has happened inside that they did not cause. And the knowledge of God cascades immediately from the head down to the heart. As I mentioned, I spoke at length about this phenomenon in the series Something Else Happens. And you can hear those devotionals on our website. Just go to heartoftexasfoundation.org and click on radio. Well, back then, when I knew a lot about God, but didn't know that God could fully invade a heart and make himself real to a person individually, I had heard the word redemption many times in sermons that I'd heard as a kid growing up. And this topic and this thought came to me, my friends, and I'm speaking now to all of those who are locked up in prisons, in the 5 states that we broadcast into now, I want you to listen closely, men and women and teenagers, if you're locked up. And of course, you free world people, we love that you have tuned in as well. We wouldn't be here without the free world people helping us get into the prisons through the means of radio. Everybody knows, I always thought, that Jesus came to redeem the world. They also say he came to ransom people. But I'd never really thought about what that meant. And tonight I want to tell you that if you're in a prison, as you hear my voice, you are the one person who is in a position to understand this better than anyone I know. And I'm going to tell you why. Not long ago, my godson Sean and I were out on what I call a Sunday afternoon dad venture. As his goddaddy, we just jumped in the car and I took off, and we didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but we ended up, one of the things we did was stop by a kind of a fancied up dog pound. It's $1 million facility which was built by friends of the animals, and it's just amazing what caring people can do when they put their minds and their means together. In this place, this beautiful building, there were dogs and cats of all kinds. Dogs on the left half of the building and cats on the right half in clean cages. Big dogs, tiny dogs, slobbering dogs, shy dogs, big cats, kittens, every color, every kind. Kids, parents, they wandered by looking, talking quietly, pointing, oohing and eyeing. On the dog side of the building, it was noisy, barking, whining, whimpering, and you had trouble talking with one another. Sometimes we just have to lean down, and I'd have to whisper in Sean's ear, or talk loudly in Sean's ear, I should say. But on the cat side, it was quiet, totally silent. You walked in there, it was just as different as night could be from day. But all the animals were in cages. They were all locked up, fed through the bars. And I know at the county dog pound, it's the same way. They're locked up and fed through the bars. But you know, at the dog pound at the county, there's a slow train coming. The dogs have a limited amount of time to be kept, and then they're put to sleep, aren't they? These animals were locked up in cages like you, my friend. And I thought of you all of you who are locked up listening right now. I thought of you all that day as Sean and I walked through that place. And in the eyes of every dog and every cat, no matter which cage we looked in, there was a common look. And if looks could talk, the look said, "Are you the one? Are you the one who will release me and take me home? Are you the one who has come for me?" And I thought of you. I thought of those of you I know personally in many prisons around Texas and in North Carolina and Virginia and Tennessee, places I have been, and in Louisiana, many on death row, many in solitary confinement in a 6x9 cell, 24 hours a day alone with no mail, no visitors, and no one who wants you. I know many of you who are just like that, and all of you are sleeping. All of you are sleeping behind locked bars every night of your life. You've been locked up and abandoned just like those little animals. I did. I thought of you, both men and women and teenagers out there in exactly that same similar situation. But in the lives of those animals, there is the hope of good news. You remember how it works. If anyone wants to free a puppy or a kitty, all you have to do is step up and volunteer to pay the ransom. You pay the ransom and they will be turned loose. Remember how kidnappings work? The kidnapper takes the person, holds the person in captivity until the ransom arrives, and when the ransom arrives, the captive is free to go. And who brings the ransom? Someone has to bring the ransom to the place where the captive is. You know what that person is called? The one who brings the ransom? He is called the Redeemer. The Redeemer shows up with the payment required for your freedom. So the animals don't hope for a ransom. They have to hope for a Redeemer, someone who will bring the ransom. If the Redeemer doesn't come with the ransom can never be paid, even though it sits out there somewhere in a bank account. The willing Redeemer who brings the payment required is your key to the gate. You are in prison and no one can buy your way out. Even if a person who called himself the Redeemer showed up at the gate and banged on it, he would not be allowed to pay what is required for you to get out. Because, my friend, only you can pay what is required. Only you can do your time. That's prison talk. That's prison rules. And it's odd that Jesus uses prison talk and prison rules to try to explain why he came and what he came to this earth to do. You take the crazy afternoon that's described in the pages of the second book in the New Testament, Mark, where Jesus has been trying to explain to the disciples this very thing, that he's going to die in a spiritual way. He's going to give them something that they've never had. He's been trying to tell them that they're locked up, waiting for the wrath of God for all their sins. And the only way they can escape the wrath of God or be saved from that wrath is for a Redeemer to show up with the ransom that would be required. Without this Redeemer and without his bringing the ransom, they will continue to be locked up, waiting spiritually in bondage for the wrath of God that is going to come at the end of time. And, of course, the Bible makes it clear that no one in this life is going to come and do your time for you. And then Jesus went on to explain to them that no one could pay the ransom. No one has enough money, enough of anything in this life to be able to pay or bring a ransom sufficient to have you escape the wrath of God and have me escape the wrath of God. And so Jesus has been trying to tell them that he has come to pay the ransom. And what is the ransom? One perfect life lived and given to God. And there's no way anybody could do that. And so Christ came to live the perfect life that you and I could never live, and then to give that life as a sacrifice. And he did it in the Jewish context. They were sacrificing precious innocent lambs on the altar. And so Jesus, to help them understand and recognize him, he too offered his life to be sacrificed on the altar. Oh, yes, and Jesus told the men that day, he said, I have come to die, and I'm going to die and become a ransom for many. A ransom for many. And so that's what he was trying to tell them. And then in Matthew 20:28, he said, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. 1 Timothy tells us, he gave himself as a ransom for all people. Now that he has died, it says in Hebrews, he has died as a ransom to set them free. And of course, there are countless verses in the Bible that have to do with the Redeemer coming, the Redeemer coming. And there are wonderful verses not only in Job. Job says, I know that my Redeemer lives. And when you get to the New Testament, Paul in Romans 3:24 says, we're all justified freely through the redemption that came by Christ Jesus. What do you think of that, my friend? He's offering you that ransom. I love those who love me, it says, and if you ask and seek me with all your heart, you will find me. This is Grove Norwood coming to you from the Heart of Texas Foundation and deep in the heart. The count has cleared, my friend. It's time to rack up. I'll see you next week. Sleep well.
Now there ain't no room for the hopeless sinner who's hard on mankind just to save his own. Have pity on those who stray